Okay. All right. Thank you for joining me for this edition of the Teaching PM podcast. I'm Juanita Woods. It's great to see you all. I have with me Sylvie Edwards, an instructor of project management, and we're going to listen to her tell us all about her wonderful experiences with teaching project management. Hi, Sylvie.
Hello. Nice to see you again. I
It's
missed you.
it's nice to see you too. It's we need to get together more often for sure.
Yes.
So, all right. So, for our audience, could you spend a couple minutes to tell us who you are and what you currently do in the field of project management education?
Okay. So, Sylvie Edwards, I currently am the program coordinator and a faculty in the Faculty of Business at Durham College in Ontario, Canada. I part of that, my program that I'm involved in and I've developed since the beginning, which is now like 10 years, is the project management postgraduate certificate program, which is basically a 2 semester program that takes people already with diplomas and gives them project management practices or techniques in the context of project management to make them a little bit better when they come out. And this program I've been doing for 10 years, but I've been involved in project management. I stopped changing the number after 25, so I keep putting 25 plus.
Yeah.
So I've been involved in all kinds of different things, like started out actually in the hotel industry, then moved on into consulting. And then I had my own consulting practice for some time. And part of that consulting made me go into training and education. And that's kind of the short road on how I got there. But I've been doing that for quite some time.
Okay. So, when did you first start teaching project management? More than 10 years ago?
Formally, like 1997
Okay. So, you've been teaching project management for a while.
for a while.
So, you got a lot of
Yes.
great experiences.
Yes. Well, some great, some weird, some bad. So yeah, experience. Yeah.
Good. So, what are the biggest joys you have found with teaching project management?
I think the first one is like I call it like where I see that light bulb go on in someone who's in my class, and then you're trying to explain something, and then it starts with the question mark in the forehead, and then they look at you, and then all of a sudden, oh, I get it, right? So that's kind of what I like the best about it. And also afterwards when I have like alumni come back, right, and tell me, "Hey, Professor Edwards, I'm working in whatever, and oh, I remember when you taught me this, and we talked about this week, and I did not look like an idiot." That kind of stuff is actually what makes me, and the fact that I keep on learning myself. I don't think I would do this if I was myself learning along in the process. And the profession is like really changing all the time. There's new stuff, there's stuff that gets out and whatever. So that learning component is like making me want to learn. It challenges me too, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, wonderful. So, what are some of the struggles you have found with teaching project management, especially in the
So,
university setting?
well, for me, is there's a, quite a few people that take this, but they don't really necessarily know what this is. So, so say they get in here and even though like our program is not specific to an industry, like for example, it's not just like for engineers or for scientists or like it's kind of like general in that aspect of industry. So we could have in a classroom a whole bunch of different people, and some of them have been told, "Oh, project management is a new thing, like take this," but they have no clue. So, and some of them remain in the entire program, kind of clueless the entire thing. So it's kind of hard to do kind of this benchmark at the end that says like how much did I actually, you know, make these people learn,
Mhm.
because some of them kind of really early on says, well, I'm just going to go through it, I'm going to get the thing, and I don't care, I'm never going to do this again. So that's kind of a little bit frustrating. And then and I don't know if it's just in Canada, but here in Canada, there's also this like immigration law that if you come in with a student visa, you need to have, you can do 2 years before you can get a residency
Mhm.
visa. And a lot of people see our program, which is 1 year, as like, haha, check 1 year, right? Without really kind of thinking that, hey, this is going to be, we have 7 classes per semester. So there's 14 classes. A lot of those all have projects associated with them. And this is not like, this is not easy. You need to kind of put some effort. So sometimes it gets a little bit kind of confusing. Like, why are you here? That's kind of one of my biggest thing, I guess.
Mhm. So have you ever worked with a student to get them from that point where they're just sort of confused about why they're here to really embracing project management?
Yes, actually, I've had quite a few of them. That literally, like within the first like couple of weeks, they come to me and they say, "Okay, let me see if I get that clear," right? And they kind of explain to me, right? Because I tell them like, we call project management a profession, but it's actually a set of skills, right? That you add on to your existing profession to make you kind of better at doing stuff kind of all around. So as soon as they start thinking of it that way, then it starts making sense to them. They don't come and say like, I don't want to be a project manager when I grow up. And that's the point. It's not that we want to make you all into project managers. We want to make you better at being a civil engineer or better at being a biochemist or whatever, and understanding how do you work as a group to get projects. Because one of the big changes that has happened in the whole industry and the whole professional world is when I started doing project management was like a one-off, like, oh, you did a project, right? And but now every business, every industry works by project, and the deliverables are project related. So if you can understand that context better, and if it makes sense to attach it to your professional designation, whatever that is, it makes you just like a little tad better than somebody that comes out of school with the same professional designation. You're kind of like a little bit up there. So
Okay.
once they figure that out, and there's quite a few of them that did, which thankfully it's a good thing. It's a good thing. I think we're doing a good job.
Okay. Wonderful. Yeah, I have found that I have to often educate students on what project management is and is not.
Yeah.
Um, because at my university, this is a required course in a general management degree for undergrads. And so
Okay.
they all have to take it, and they don't know why they have to take it until I start explaining to them the value of learning this tool, this process, to be able to help you do better in your general management life. So, yeah, making that connection is so key. Absolutely. So, how do you find teaching materials?
Um. Well, all of the professors in my program I've created basically the curriculum. So based on whatever course outline, the expectations that we set out for the students, and we keep on updating like that course outline every year. Actually, that's coming up in May. Um, the there some of it is based on, we're not really big in my program with books, except for a couple of different classes, but most of the time it's true. Like there's one class, for example, like my consultancy practices class. It's all based on case studies and it's based on discussions. So you bring the case studies and you have discussions around, hey, like was that like good decision making? Is that like how would you present to like a client? And so we give them all these kind of like tools that are transferable, not just to consulting. Although I tell them that 50 or 40% of them in the classroom are probably going to end up being consultants, and they just don't know it yet. And again, it's because of how the world is changing.
Mm.
So that one is kind of like business case based. Some of the other classes that we have in our program are also, there's one that's a capstone based on a case study that of a building that we built on campus. So we have all the documentation. And another one is actually what is applied, where we link them to a sponsor, and they actually, for their semester, do a project for that sponsor. Mind you, they can't do like a very like 3 year long project, but they do components of projects that they kind of have the deliverables, like the same cycle that you would have for normal projects. So I would say like we developed our curriculum. We base ourselves on the PMI body of knowledge.
Okay.
So we kind of we follow that kind of pathways, but we give them all kinds of different other things like risk management. I follow the processes from the Penn book, but we talk about enterprise risk management. We talk about like the other bodies that have like ISO and all these kind of stuff. So we try to give them like a broader kind of view of things.
Okay, wonderful. So you came from practice into academia.
Mhm.
So you don't have a degree in education.
No, well,
Okay.
I'm about to get one.
Oh, okay. Well, my next question is, how did you learn to teach?
Um, okay, that's a that's a question in itself, isn't it? Uh, so I don't know. I think I learned to teach by being involved in doing training originally. So I understand the concept of, okay, we need to give them some lecture thing, we need to make them practice it, we need to test this, assess them, whatever. So that whole, I think they call it like fast start kind of loop, whatever. I actually was applying that when I was doing training, but it was mostly with adults.
Mhm.
Although I call them my kids, but my my people are also like more than likely like 25 years and up, right? So, and I also still call them kids. But that pattern I kind of established, I formalized. I did a certificate in staff training and development, which kind of built those blocks. And I've been involved in for so long at the college that I took the classes like how do you create a good learning objective and the Bloom taxonomy,
Mhm.
all this kind of stuff. So I'm also like a huge reader. So I read a whole lot of stuff about different things. Recently, my biggest concern was around experiential learning, just to make sure that we just don't get them to regurgitate something and it's not all like test based what we're actually, because they're going to have to do this in real life. So we want to make sure that our assessments are more authentic. So and I went and I dug into that. And then right now I am actually following a course that will give me a certificate in college teaching.
Nice.
So, but a lot of stuff I already kind of knew most of the bits.
Mhm.
So I'm on my last class for this one. So,
Okay. So when you were an adjunct and not full time, did the university offer you training on teaching and learning?
we could. There's that Center for Training and Learning is actually a group at the college that actually takes care of us as faculty members
Okay.
and looks for opportunities for us to engage in different learning practices. They also will like they post a whole lot of stuff around like how do you create a good course shell? How do you make sure that you have that loop with your assessments and that right now, for example, they're really involved, and we had this discussion a little bit before about like AI and best practices and that kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
that group is really key, and everybody can kind of like participate in those. And they have every time we have a reading week, so once a semester, they have that reading week. There's like a day or two, which is a professional development day, where they will have like these sessions and these kind of seminars that you can kind of take.
Wonderful. So, what recommendations would you make for a project management professional who wanted to get into teaching project management at a university? What are some recommendations for their first steps or things they should prepare for or look for?
Well, for the ones who come and work in my program, I say, contact me. So uh, that's usually a first step. The other thing is not everyone who's a project manager necessarily is a good faculty, like a good professor. Um, it's not because you're necessarily good, very good technically, that you will be good to teach. And sometimes some people don't get that. Oh, well, like I'm an expert in this. Yeah, but like, okay, do a presentation and show me how you would present this. And a lot of them, they present like over here, right? And you want them to literally like be like a little bit below and kind of like never assume they know something, right? That kind of like thought process.
Mhm.
And you also need to have students really like examples, like real life examples. Oh, I did this and this is what happened. Like, what would you have done, right? So they like that sort of thing. So the more baggage you have with weird and bizarre examples, the better. So I think again, having and this is again a discussion we're having at the college right now because there are some people that say, "Oh, you need a master's and you need the PhD and you need this. You don't need like experience." And then some other people said, "Yeah, but what do you talk to them about? Like, oh, I read this book, right? So how does that translate for the students, right? And I know that what they gravitate towards me for is like, hey, Professor Sylvia, like give us another example. Like I have like a number of those, right?
Mhm.
So it makes it concrete without being like bookish type of thing, right? And you need to be able to deliver. Like I don't read the slides. I never read the slides. They're on there and I have one or two words highlighted and that's enough to make me talk for 15 minutes. So you can't be one of those people that rely on the slides or need them to do something that is just related to a lecture. And I think that's another thing that's happened like in the last years. And I think COVID didn't help that either, is that you need to try to find different ways to engage them. So you might know everything in the world about what you're trying to teach, but if you can't engage them and give them that piece to connect them, you're going to lose them.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing that you need to work on to be a good professor, like not just like somebody that can talk about,
Mhm.
but be a good professor. The one that like the students like come to class and they go, "Hey, I got a class with Sylvie today," type of thing.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. Are there any last minute things you want to tell us about teaching project management at the university that you haven't already covered?
No, I say like just remain open. Like I said before, one of the things that challenges me and keeps me, I think, motivated to do this is that I read a lot. I stay on top of information. As part of being the coordinator, I'm instrumental in developing the program and giving it direction. So stay on top of like not just like what do we need to teach them now, but what are we going to need to teach them like after. And if your program is successful, then you have an outlet to teach and to kind of share that knowledge and stuff with them, which is cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'm sure our audience really appreciated hearing you and your expertise on teaching project management.
Thank you, and don't be a stranger.